All right. Let's see. Hopefully this is live and you guys can hear me already. Let me see what's going on. If it's showing up in all right, it's looking like it's actually working. He's working. Let me wait to make sure this shows up. There it is. Perfect. We are live. Welcome to the Purple and Gold Bars podcast. I'm your host, Supreme. What a hell of a weekend. Victory Monday for us Vikings fans. It's an incredible time. I'm so happy. It's awesome to wake up every week and be happy, unlike last year or in years past. So, what an incredible way to start the week. And let's go over the craziness that happened in the NFL. I want to start with a segment called the Fast Five that I'm starting today. The first topic on the Fast Five, let me, is the fact that we have so many 2 and 3 teams right now. I counted 9. We have the Jets, the Dolphins, the Colts, the Chargers. Oh no, well the Chargers are 2 and they're on a bye. So the Raiders, the Giants, the Cardinals, and San Francisco. Some of those names are quite surprising. San Francisco immediately, right off the top of the, right off the top of the head there. It's weird to see them in amongst this kind of pack of misfits. But they've had a hard start to the season. We put a huge wrench in their game plan to start the year, and then dealing with all those injuries. I don't think it's a thing of dysfunction though. It's more of a thing of um, they're just not quite right. They got a little bit of injuries and obstacles to overcome, but the coaching staff, the environment, the team, the roster are still top 10 in my opinion, even though they're not producing at that level right now. So I expect things to turn around, and I imagine it's not going to go like they thought this year would go with a first round bye, number 1 seed, and hopefully an easy path to the Super Bowl. Um, but they're still a good enough team that they can put a good playoff run together and end up, in the playoffs. And if they, you know what they say, if you got a ticket to the dance, that's all you need, right? You can ask Eli Manning about that. He knows really really well how that goes. Other teams, Arizona Cardinals, surprising on a different area because a lot of people I think weren't giving them as much credit going into the season, that they were going to be more of a middling team that's still going to be a lot to work on. But man, Kyler Murray, he's back to the human joystick. That run that he had this week, incredible. Um, yeah, so actually, I'm going to talk about that in the next. But anyway, so in the Cardinals Giant or Niners game, but yeah, a lot of props to them. 2 3. There's just some up and down teams. The Raiders are have some potential. They still have some dysfunction and whatnot, but they're still a work in progress. Kind of expected them to see them there. The Colts, a bit of a surprise as well because a lot of people are going into the season with Anthony Richardson, with big hopes that he would take a big step in year 2, which hasn't happened just yet, and he continues to be injured. So, very, very interesting how that's all turned out with the 2 and 3 teams. So, a fun week and a start to the season, albeit very confusing to a lot of people or conventional football minds. The next topic in the Fast Five is the Denver Broncos. In the live preview that I had on Saturday, I mentioned briefly and gave props to the Denver Broncos because as I was preparing for the Jets Vikings game, I noticed a couple things that stood out for me when it came to the Denver Broncos. Once I looked past that dumpster fire that it seemed to be, I noticed that the Broncos were a third in opposing points allowed, as well as second in sacks. So I was like, whoa, is this an anomaly or is this an emerging defense? And they go on out this weekend and put a performance like they did, putting up 34 points, if I'm not mistaken. So incredible. You know, I said that maybe there is a lot of potential there and they could become a good team despite that garbage human being of a coach that they have. So excellent, excellent stuff from the Denver Broncos. They've dealt with a lot of new bad or worse games of the season or ever, and as well as worse new games. So looks like there's a bright future there with the Denver Broncos, which is awesome to see. The next team that I want to move on to though are the New York Giants. A lot of people have been clowning or laughing when I say, "Yo, like these New York Giants, there's a lot more potential and they're a lot better than anybody gives them any credit." The reason being is because I see a lot of the Vikings in like in the older Vikings, like in the last year or two, the Giants remind me of them, right? So they have a lot of new places. They got new coaching staff, new players. They've drafted Malik Neighbors, right? They brought people in to solidify the O line, right? They brought Burns in from the Panthers. There's a lot of new exciting talent there, but there wasn't any experience putting it together. So it was a thing of there's going to be a lot of errors, growing pains, and but they have something going. You know, maybe it might take the next regime or maybe something to click with Dable and his philosophy and their schemes and maybe this win against the Seahawks, which was a pretty stellar win in my opinion. Um, they maybe that clicks and maybe it gives him the confidence to start innovating or going back to what he was doing in years past when people were giving him a lot more credit. So big props to the New York Giants and Big Blue. Big shout out to TP Way the Giant, the Juke, and Big Dash Nose. You guys have been relentless with the Giants content and making it loud and known that you guys aren't giving up on this team. And I think this week was the beginning for you guys changing that narrative. So big props to New York. Cardinals 49ers. Let's touch back a little bit with Cardinals 49ers because it's a little bit of a. I want to talk specifically about that matchup because it was a weird. Well, not like weird. It's a surprising and surprising in many different areas for the Cardinals and the 49ers. I think a lot of people expected, including myself, for the 49ers to continue riding the ship despite injuries and whatnot. Give it mad props to Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. They stepped up huge. That massive run, that man, Kyler Murray is our modern day human joystick. He's insane. He's Russell Wilson 2.0, but like much better than him in his prime. He's got a he's very accurate. He scrambles well. He can run. I don't hold his height against him. He makes all the passes. So incredible to see that Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are coming back from last year and him having to come back from injuries. So I like to see. I like that they're working on it and things are coming together there. 49ers are a bit confusing with everything because I did give them their roster is still top tier. Their coaching is top tier. I don't see any dysfunction in the 49ers per se. It's just a matter of things just not going their way or because like they have a lot of good things going for them. They got a nice rookie running back that's um, um, that's done quite a bit and a great job in relief of CMC. Um, Juwan Jennings had a breakout game last year or last couple weeks, just doing a good job in relief of Debo as well as his as CMC's pass catching abilities in the slot, right? Like so, it was a little bit confusing. They stalled a little bit. Maybe that's a little bit more credit due to the Cardinals and what they're doing. Um, Man, James Conner. Man, what a bonehead decision by the Pittsburgh Steelers to get rid of him. I don't know why they didn't see what the Cardinals see in him, because he continues to prove game in and game out that he is a really, really good running back in this league, and it showed yesterday. So, incredible job by those guys, and what an incredible matchup. And last but not least, for the Fast Five, I have that there's no more winless teams in the NFL this year. It's incredible. It looks like the Jags did enough to stave off some of the hot seat arguments for at least another week. And so it's cool to see that we're not going to have a 0-17 team this year going around. Honorable mention: the Green Bay Packers. Man, they are exactly what I thought they were. They're a young up and coming team with a lot of talent. Their roster is capable of carrying the load when they face adversity, like we saw it when they had to start Malik Willis. And then yesterday we saw some struggles. We saw an interception from Jordan Love. We saw an incredible catch by Jayden Reed in triple coverage. That boy is is gonna be something else, man. That's scary to think as a Vikings fan, but incredibly happy for that young man. And so, and then again, another huge bounce and a huge bounce back game for Tucker Kraft, because like coming after a game where his late game fumble um, basically helped the Vikings seal the deal in that win, and lower their probabilities of that comeback. A lot of people would, might crumble in the face of that, and doubt might set in coaching staff and play calling stuff. Like, it didn't seem like that to me. He had a massive game, 2 touchdowns. Really happy for what's going on down there. Just like I said, I thought they were going to be a similar team to us, where we have an incredibly talented roster that can carry us through adversity and bring us, get us a lot further than people think. I thought there were still going to be a lot of work in becoming a perennial playoff team with this version that they have. With everything that's come out with Aaron Rodgers and the dysfunction with the Jets, I wonder how much that played a factor in Green Bay in those years coming up. How much he was affecting Coach LaFleur to do what he's been doing, because it's clear that he's a good coach and he's got some really good ideas, and maybe A-Rod should have sat back and let him coach. Maybe that a lot of questions arise for me, and I guess we'll see going forward. And I hope um, more of that comes to light, because yeah, they are a great roster, and the what they're doing with what they have is awesome. So props to the Green Bay Packers. And moving on to Colts Jags. Uh, Joe Flacco's impact, insane. Over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Um, but what does that say about Anthony Richardson? To me, he's like Scam Newton. Is like the nickname I have from him is like Scam Newton. He's like got all the talent and athleticism, but he's way more injury prone and like none of the production. So it's really weird to see what's going on with him, because he's got such a high ceiling and such a high potential. Like, man, if you can throw a touchdown pass like 60, 70 yards through the air, there's more than just fire or more than just smoke there. There is fire. So like if he can just get reeled in, if the coaching staff, the quarterbacks, coaches can really develop him, man, he could be a problem. But for the time being, it's interesting to see how the impact of Joe Flacco has to the team, because now they look like a much better team without him, without Anthony, right? So, and then like I was mentioning earlier, it looks like the Jags have come out from this hot seat talk. Maybe there's still going to be a little bit. Maybe it's not as hot. Maybe it's a little bit lukewarm now since that huge win. Um, put up a ton of points. So maybe could we see a turnaround this season, or are they going to end up imploding, right? And are we going to see a fire sale coming up at the deadline, right, where they're just getting rid of everybody? So it's not a hard prediction, but I think Trevor Lawrence might be one of these future up and coming reclamation projects. First step is getting on a different roster, right? And After that, restructuring his contract so that way he lands in one of these teams where that contract isn't going to be a hindrance for them to taking him on while he sits and learns. If he can land, getting coached by one of these young, new, hip coaches that we got right now, I think he can definitely turn things around and go the way of Baker, Gino, and what currently Sam's trying to complete this year, right? So if he ends up with LaFleur, KOC, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, I think that he's got a really good chance to be the next reclamation project that might end up turning things around in a couple years. So we'll see how that plays out and how this current season plays out for the Jags. Cowboy Steelers, another awesome game that I wanted to kind of lightly touch on in regards to this week. The Cowboys, again, after 5 weeks, have proven to me that they are a gatekeeper for like those 10 to 12 top, gatekeeper for teams that want to reach the top 12 or top 10 roughly. We see that they have a lot of talent, but they're still able to just they have bad wins. They have bad losses. They struggle against teams that they should beat handedly. They very much are a team that plays to their opponents. And that's usually, for me, it's been very difficult to get interested in what they're going to do in the postseason because whenever the postseason come, it's almost always the same kind of outcome the last how many years, and it's almost become a laughing stock when it comes to the national media, especially with Stephen A. and mocking the Cowboys. So for me, they're like still a really really good team. They're just like missing some. I don't know what it is. Mike Zimmer has been letting up a ton of points. His defense, I don't know if he like is he too far in the past now? Like when he was with us, like our defenses were great. Like has the defense, has the NFL evolved past Mike Zimmer's philosophies? Because he seems to be middling in some situations. So I don't know what that says about the Cowboys, but still an exciting team to watch from time to time. Whether you enjoy watching them succeed or watching them fail, they're always there. A really, really entertaining watch for both ways, right? So, and the Steelers, you know what? I think they're still in a good spot, right? Even despite the loss, they still have a really good D. Their offense has shown improvement week to week. Justin Fields didn't throw to in the middle of the field in week 1, right? So, and he's been consistently getting better. I've seen some nice throws from him. Seems like he's a little bit gun shy some at times. Maybe sometimes he's a little bit off page with his receivers, but either way, it's a forward upward trajectory in his play and what the offense is doing. So, in my opinion, I think it's his job to lose, and regardless of any concern that they may have, I think they should stick with Justin Fields until he loses the job, until he proves that he can't do what they need him to do. Before they throw Russell Wilson in there, because I think it'd be a disservice to them. Because if he ends up doing really, really good this season, then like incredible, right? Like, what more could you know? Like, he's younger version of and taller than Russell Wilson. So, and you can always just continue to move Russ like he has been. So there's no reason, in my opinion, for them to move to just Russell Wilson just yet. But it's time. Let's break down the Vikings win. Hey, Cox, what's going on, man? Welcome to the stream, dude. This is my first time doing my podcast live. I hope I do you guys proud. But it's time to move on to Jets Vikings. Let's break this down. Again, I am very happy. No, this is it, man. I'm currently doing it, so I'm just about to start the breakdown. I wanted to get over all the cool things because I want to talk about teams and situations and storylines and that national media doesn't talk about or give any credit to. And it's just always like I watch the shows this morning, and it's all the same stuff. It's like, is Aaron Rodgers old, washed up? It's nothing. You know what I mean? Like it's just the same boring, pointless talking points. So I want to cover those guys, but now the meat and potatoes and what I've really been wanting to do is the breakdown over this week's game versus the Jets. And so, first and foremost, I am very happy with the way this game played out this week. To me, uh, the way in a couple different ways. First off, I'm happy because I kind of predicted or had a really good read on this game. Jet lag, like I had in my live preview, and in my regular preview, that jet lag was going to be a big factor. I assumed it'd be similar to last year, but this year was a little bit weird. It seemed like the jet lag kind of lingered up and down throughout the game. It started off kind of weird at the beginning. It seemed like everybody was a little bit off, a little sluggish. Sam's first scramble and run, I thought it looked really rough and slow. A-Rod had two early interceptions, so I think a lot of that has to do with that fogginess or that lack of clarity that comes from traveling different time zones. If you've traveled before different time zones or big distances like that, it really does put a toll to you. Some people not so much as others, and some people not at all. But because you could see some players were out there were firing on all cylinders, but it played a factor. And so that kind of led into the second half where I started to see it again. We started off kind of strong, both teams, 3 and outs, both defensive struggle, trying to gain that ability to take control over the game. It was a tug of war between both teams, and then you could kind of see some more drop passes. We could see some hands on hips from some players on both sides. You can see some of that kicking in a little bit earlier than you would have expected it. Maybe more like in the end of the fourth or maybe in overtime had it gone that far. So I saw that kind of showing its head earlier. So to me, that was a sign of jet lag. And yeah, so that proved that, like I said, both offenses and defenses were going to be muted, and that's exactly what we got. Um, Aaron Rodgers struggled to move the ball at times. Sam Darnold definitely struggled to move the ball at times, although in the first half he did do better in comparison to the second half. And I think that the jet lag definitely amplified the dysfunction that's going on with those Jets. And like I said, I think it was going to be a massive factor. And we ended up getting this classic meme that's going to be going on right now forever. Like he's, it just it amazes me. So like it amazes me how much it did affect and how it ended up being the thing that really caused us to kind of like squeak ahead at the end. Um, the second biggest factor, in my opinion, was the timing of when we faced the Jets. Like, had we faced them later in the season, after they traded for Devonte Adams or another wide receiver, and their offense was just starting to hit their stride, the game probably would have played out differently. It probably wouldn't have been in London for sure. So like that factor wouldn't have been at play. And if it ended up coming down just like this game came down to, with Aaron Rodgers with 2 minutes left in the game with just a one score lead, based on history, Aaron Rodgers wins those games and we might have lost, right? So it's it was awesome that we faced them when we did, because um, it gave us an advantage that we desperately needed, especially during this time when we're learning how to win, right? When we're learning how to play with a lead, when we're learning to keep the foot on the gas, right? So I was extremely happy how that turned out, but how that kind of prediction or that sense kind of ended up proving to be a big difference. And then that kind of leads me into like the second half, where I wasn't phased. To be honest, I wasn't phased in the second half and early in the third quarter. I called the desperation uh, late game interception. I assumed it was going to be very similar to what we've seen in the last couple games, where they'd be trying to get a tie or go for the lead late in the fourth, and in desperation throw up a prayer, a 50-50 ball, and come down with it like we have been in the past. This time it wasn't in desperation that we came down with that turnover, but we did come out with that game-ending interception, and it wasn't in desperation because I don't think anybody would would think that or would say anything less that the Jets were in full control at the end at the end there of the outcome of the game. Had they completed that, they outs. The only thing that we could have banked on is a block punt, or if the kicker missed it, right? And Greg Zerline ain't missing an extra field. Like he's got ice for veins, man. Like he's really good. So like I would have it played a big factor, and we still end up getting that the defense continues to be a difference maker, right? And I'm not gonna lie, although I wasn't phased the last 2 minutes when A Rod and the Jets took over, I will admit I was chain smoking. Okay, so but thank God for that for Stephon Gilmore and the Vikings picking him up. And I don't know whether that was him just falling, and as he was turning around and falling, he was able to have the presence of mind to see the ball, track it, and catch it, or he actually fell that way in order to catch it. Regardless of what the intention was or how it played out, I'm thankful that he has sure enough hands to continue to make game ending interceptions everywhere he goes, from the Patriots freaking everywhere, man. Colts, freaking Cow, everywhere. He always finds a way to end games, so I'm infinitely grateful to have him on the team. Um, and then when it comes to the offense, it's definitely been two different offenses that we've seen first half compared to the second half. It's not lost on me, and I'm not ignoring it or drinking the Vikings Kool-Aid and disregarding it like it's nothing to be worried about. But the way that I see it is maybe in a different perspective or in a different light, right? Because in the first half, our scripted stuff is working really, really well for the most part. The jet lag, I think, kind of brought a little bit of that struggle to that first drive, but we still managed to get that good sneak fullback dive there with CJ Ham for the score. We managed to get a pick six with Van Ginkel, which continues to be incredible. So that helped the offense with their struggles. So we were able to lean hard on them, so which is awesome, awesome, awesome to see. Um, but the scripted stuff worked. We were moving the ball. We didn't finish with touchdowns like we had in the past. But like I say, I think the jet lag or the traveling or that kind of like unfamiliarity of being there and training there, short week, whatever you want to call it, played a factor to that slow start or that inability um, to play as effective as Sam has the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So I'm happy with what's going on in the first half because that means that the scheme's working, the coordination's working. KOC's doing a great job of um, developing or creating really nice plays that, like I go back to the touchdown in week one to Naylor when we motioned JJ into a screen, or it looked like it was going to screen. Like I thought it was a screen in the real time, and so did the broadcast. And it forced those linebackers to step up on that, and that play design was crucial. On top of it being a timing play, because Sam threw the ball exactly when he had to throw it, and Ingram, even though he got blown up on that play, he ended up just giving Sam enough time to get the ball off. So like play design is huge, and it continues to be a strength in the first half. In the second half, oh, and then yeah, and then yeah, we and that it looks exactly like that all the way up until the defensive coordinator at halftime makes adjustments, right? So we've looked like world beaters in the first half, but looked like we've been a work in progress in the second half. And a lot of people have been criticizing that. And I get it because it doesn't look great, but what I'm seeing are good things, right? Um, in the second half, we've after adjustments, we've seen the offense struggle as well as Brian Flores stop using exotic looks at times. Versus the 49ers, the game was close, or maybe the coaches felt like the 49ers could get back into it. So we didn't see much of that conservative play calling or what people would have referred to as taking the foot off the gas in week two. Versus the Texans, we played a little soft and let him get some garbage stats before a comeback even materialized. And then the Texans ended up waving the white flag anyways and pulled C.J. Stroud and threw the backups in. So we never really got to see an overly conservative play style coming from Brian Flores against the Texans. But against the Packers, after adjustments and the momentum swing going into the half, the Vikings definitely seemed to cower a bit and become very conservative in their playing calling, as well as it's like that they had realized that they didn't. Until they realized, so they were very conservative until they realized they hit that point of no return where they needed to get points on the board. If not, their probabilities significantly dropped. I imagine the analytics guys were freaking in KOC's ear saying if we do not get any kind of points, our probabilities of winning this game drastically drop. So I'm glad that at that moment they floored it. We chewed up the clock. We marched down the field, and we got a crucial field goal. I don't know if that drive was scripted. We had a little bit of luck. I think we had some, if I remember correctly, we had a couple of penalties that ended up giving us some first down that extended the drive. So some luck as well as some execution from our guys that ended up putting up a field goal. Sam looked confident in that drive, and that coupled with 4 minutes from the 13-minute mark in the fourth quarter to the 9-minute mark where Brian Flores went completely vanilla with like zero exotic looks. That's when the Packers put up those two scores, and right on cue, just like when the offense needed to put the gas on, like foot on the gas. Brian Flores did the exact same thing and went right back to his exotic looks, and it turned into that on top of clock management to seal the deal, which was really good to see. Even though they were faced with that adversity and they made some bad decisions in the second half, they still ended up doing the right things to win, even though we would have preferred for them to just never let up. And then that brings me and then that's when the critiques basically took off, really, where the offense and defense need to remain aggressive and just keep pushing and, not let off the gas, like I was saying. And so that brings me to this week's second half, which is the most important. And I'm really happy with what I saw in that first half because we got exactly what the fans have been crying for, right? We saw the Vikings try to remain aggressive. They went for it on fourth down. They went for chunk plays, amongst other things. Unfortunately, they didn't execute like we wanted them to. I'm sure they wanted to go out there and put a score on every single one of those drives, but the defense, we have to give a lot of credit for the Jets defense because they came out with some great adjustments, even though they were humiliated by their daddy Jettas out there. They came out with some really good adjustments. Like all those penalties didn't hold them back tremendously. All the other adjustments that they had worked really well to stifle our defense or our offense. So that played a big factor of them trying to be aggressive, right? So, had they been a lesser team or a worse defense, maybe those things that they were trying to do, they may have executed a little bit better, and people wouldn't be criticizing them right now for the second half, right? And then again, in the moment where we needed a touchdown, where we needed points, because if we didn't score at least 3 points there, um, Arod could just come down and at the very least kick a field goal and force overtime, and then who knows what happens, right? Arod was continuing to figure things out, when it came to the defense. I have to rewatch the fourth quarter a few more times to see if Brian Flores went completely vanilla. But at this point, my first impression is that he didn't, if any at all. The reason that we had struggled there late was more because, especially in the fourth, was more because A-Rod started to figure things out. I could see his cadence start making backers and Hitman Harry commit to running back into coverage before he even snapped the ball. So like he was starting to, figure it out, and he took advantage of that at times. So that's where there was a couple drives there where he was able to make something happen and ended up getting back into it. But then the defense came up huge again, and Gilmore came up with a game-ending interception, as we know. So again, we this defense continues to be a difference maker. The reason that this team is doing well, like it baffles me when the media tries to put it as like Sam Darnold and the Vikings are coming in. Can he win this game? No, like he. That's not the thing. It's can the Vikings come in and along with Sam Darnold and the boys. You know what I mean? Because it's the team, it's the scheme, it's the coaches, it's everybody doing their job that's making this success happen. And I wish that it was all about like having an incredible roster and then having an incredible legendary gunslinger like Favre or like uh, Brady or someone legendary back there that's just got this cannon and is able to do incredible things back there, and we can just not think about it. But that's not what we have, and what we got, um, we're doing really well with, right? And a lot of people have been saying in the past couple weeks, what's going to happen when adversity hits? What's going to happen when Sam Darnold struggles, right? And we found out in the last couple weeks that they respond, right? They're not afraid to back down. And especially in this week, they proved to not be afraid to try to put the things to work, uh, try to put the things into practice to try to overcome these things these struggles that we're having in the second half with aggressiveness and play calling, etc. Right? Um, they're not just cowering and just running the ball every single drive like we may have back in the day, and just hoping to kill as much clock and then just like never throwing the ball and just kind of imploding and melting down and then just hoping like to come out with the win like we used to with Zimmer and just play defense. Like it's not that. Like we are making everything to me looks like it's an upward trend. So I don't think that for me there's nothing to worry about yet. Like if things start to completely fall off, go off the rails, then I can imagine having some criticism. But everything still is moving in an upward trend in all the areas that we need to be looking forward to. Right, going back 2 years, clock management and play calling have been a huge thing that I've been a big critic of. Getting the plays in time, that has gotten better over time and has shown to be a big improvement this year going forward, right? So because clock management and some play calling were the difference makers at the end of the last two games, right? If we didn't play their cards properly, we could have been um, like what was it, Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Even though they just they're incredible. Like how do you go 36 seconds or whatever it was, 37 seconds, and you throw three consecutive passes and not kill any clock off, like and give them a chance to bring it back, right? Like had they done that, had clock management done properly, given they should have had like maybe 8 to 12 seconds maybe at the end of the game for them to try to muster up a game tying or game winning field goal. So clock management and play calling are getting better. Our offensive line is getting better, even though they have their moments where it's comedically bad. These lowlights are incredibly awful. When you watch their game in its entirety, the offensive line um, is giving Sam a ton of time. And in those times where things break down, the play calling has bailed I almost said Sam Bradford, Sam Darnold out by making sure it's a quick timing play. So regardless if the pass rush gets there, the play calling is going to help him there. Or he ends up scrambling and running for like a first down and then some. So something that we really, really desperately have been needing. So all upward upward trends that are happening with that. Not to mention, we do keep having self-inflicted mistakes, bonehead mistakes, as some people may call, but they are a lot less. They continue to be something that we have to contend with, but not a factor that's causing us to lose like it did last year. I keep harping on the fact that last year, all those careless mistakes, those bad penalties, everything that stalled drives out, all that stuff, those unforced turnovers, those interceptions that we led the league in, that has diminished. It hasn't transitioned into this year because we did a really good job in training camp with the philosophy that KOC went in. So we kind of hit the ground running, and those things have been cleaned up, a good amount of it. And hopefully throughout the experience of this year, and as we get later in the season, it'll continue to be less and less and not be a factor going forward. And a lot of people have been wondering, including myself, what's going to happen when Sam Darnold struggles and doesn't play well. And like I've been saying and hoping and guessing, is that this team is still going to be the deciding factor and is going to be the one carrying him, regardless of of how well he's playing at quarterback. Going into the season, all I wanted was, man, if he could just throw for like 59% completion rate for one touchdown, one interception per game, we can win games. Our defense is that good. They're gonna come up with stops. They're gonna come up with defensive scores, right? Like, I knew this roster could carry even that kind of middle of the pack performance. And yesterday was an example of that, right? The last thing that we need to learn to find out is, can these Vikings play with a lead? I mean, not with a lead. Can these Vikings play from behind when somebody else comes at us with a lot of intensity, a lot of passion, and punches us in the mouth first before we can do it to them, right? The Lions is the game that I've identified going before. Like, the Jets game was my first game, or well, after the first game that I was worried about was the 49ers game, to be honest. Because we had just beat the Giants and there was no telling 100%. The only thing that I could bank my hat on was, well, good teams are supposed to beat teams like that handedly, and we did. So it's a sign, right? But it didn't really paint a big enough, broad enough picture for me to hang my hat on and really fully buy into what we could do. And I thought the 49ers are going to be a big test for us. Last year, our team, on top of great quarterback play by Kirk Cousins, was able to beat them. So I thought, if we can do the same and Sam Darnold can do the same, it's basically Moneyball. If he can do the same, we're throwing him in there. He's just bringing us the same stats that Kirk could do, but with like a third, or at a $10 million paycheck, right? So at a $10 million cost. So when we beat them, I was like, wow, okay, Sam Darnold has a little bit higher ceiling than what I thought he could have. And I still need to see where his low, or his basement, or his low. And I think we got close to it, if not to it, this game. And he didn't give up. He didn't buckle. He didn't, in that final drive, he showed a lot of grit, determination, and he pulled it off. He got us into the position that we needed to be in, which was to force Aaron Rodgers to have to throw for the touchdown for the game, because it made their offense be one dimensional at that point, right? They can't run the clock out and kick a field goal and see what happens in the second half, or in make more adjustments going into the overtime, right? Like, it just forced them to have to go all the way. And I just knew that our defense was going to come up big, and and they did, right? So a lot of good things. And I think Lefty, what's going on, man? And I agree, it's probably the best defense. Like a lot of people don't want to give the Jets credit for their defense. I knew going into this game. That's why my score prediction was 23-10, because I knew that on top of the jet lag, their defense was still going to be very, very good, and so both teams were gonna struggle, and they did. So on top of the fact that Aaron Jones, yeah, thanks, Levy, that he went down, and Ty Chandler struggled to make an impact, and we quickly moved away from him. That played a factor, but still, the question was posed: what happens when he struggles? And it was multiplied by the fact that we didn't have Aaron Jones. So the question even was more the answer was even more impressive, is that he didn't give up, and when it counted, he did enough to win. The team carried the rest of the load, as I expect it to do every game going forward, and I'm excited for Sam Darnold's reclamation year, because I feel like all the lessons learned this year are going to be um, things that are gonna solidify um, his muscle memory, or his the way that he plays going forward, right? So I really want the best for Sam. It's an awesome underdog story. Let's quickly go over the box score. Sam Darnold, 14 for 31, 179 yards, one interception, right? 50%, a little bit less than, right? I said I want 59%, 1-1, and he did worse than that, a little bit less than 50% roughly, and 180 yards. Some of those were crucial in the second half. One interception, right? I would have liked a touchdown, but the defense continues to be a difference maker. The team continues to be the reason that we don't need Sam to be perfect. Continues to be the reason why Sam isn't the focal point like the media wants to paint it as, right? We got JJ with 92 yards, averaging 15 yards. Man, all like a lot of this also too. A lot of the yards that Sam would have had in this game are actually penalty yards, right? Because we ended up Reed and Sauce Gardner, man, like for all the trash talk that people had in regards to Sauce Gardner's going to shut down, I was not convinced at the beginning. I was like, he's been up against the best of the best, and it hasn't phased him. It's not going to start now, right? And I think all those penalty yards, if we factor those in, which would have been what, like, how many penalty yards? Where's the team yardage? Penalty yardage, 76 penalty yards, right? So some of those were, so probably around like 60 yards of, I want to say, give or take, maybe 50 yards, we'll say, on the safe end. So on top of, so he ended up roughly like 200 and some yards passing. Like, that's what we need to do. That's what we need that's the production that we need at minimum from the quarterback to win, because the rest of the team's going to do the work. So, really good things to see. One a little highlight and a big prop to Nick Mullins, to have the balls to throw that ball with his only attempt in the game. That was showed a little bit of that gunslinger in a man, like that cockiness. He's like, this might be the only chance I have to stick it to these people, to show. So he just went for it. Aaron Jones with an amazing catch, like that presence of mind to realize that it was a little underthrown, and that he needed to turn and make a play on the ball instead of, being a reactive receiver in that situation, was incredible to see, because he looked like he went 10 feet in the air there for that catch, and was the big factor why he came up with that catch and it wasn't broken up, right? So awesome honorable mention to Nick Mullins. CJ Ham, awesome fullback sneak. Addison had a little bit of a quiet night, but I think a lot of that came because of the penalty yardage and stuff like that. Just kept throwing a wrench in the offense, and how they couldn't get flow sometimes, because it just was like flag, flag. Like every play, there was like at one point, how many, like 4 or 5 plays in a row where it was just like first down, pass interference. I was like, I don't even have to look. I was just like, okay, I'm just, I could have just left for like 5 minutes and I wouldn't have missed anything. So it was just the same thing on repeat. So awesome, awesome job. Miles Gaskin had a nice run for 11 yards at one point, or received. You know, he caught a ball for 11 yards. I think it was a screen pass. That's what it was. Really, really good job. Harrison Smith with a sack. Cam Bynum with a pick. Like Van Ginkel, what an incredible story for him, right? Drafted by Beeflo, one of identified by the man himself that he's a Brian Flores guy, and for him to become available in last offseason and for us to pick him up, what a role model, man. Like I think if we didn't have guys like him on the roster, it may have taken a little bit longer for this defense to kind of fall into this groove that they're in right now, because they really feed off of him. Like he's a living, breathing example of what Brian Flores needs out of his defensive players, and so it's easy to emulate, right? And we're seeing it from everyone. The Vikings have this, like, everybody's just pitching in. We have Tillery doing it some games. We have Patrick Jones doing it. We have Harrison Phillips. We have Grenard. Everybody has been eating. It's not like it was before when we had Daniil Hunter, where some games, if they schemed him out or they had a really good tackle, no matter what we did to move him around, he was just non-existent, right? And it's really nice to see that we don't have to rely and just become like, I used to hate being like, come on, Daniil, you need to get a strip sack right now. If not, the game's over. You know what I mean? Like, I love not having that because it's just fun to watch. Who's going to get it now? Is it going to be Harrison Smith blitzing blitzing and getting a sack? Is it going to be Grenard this game? Is it going to be Jones this game? Is it going to be Tillery this game? Is it going to be Harrison Phillips? Harrison Phillips had a sack. Wait, did it come down as a sack this? Either way, or maybe it just came down as a pressure. But either way, incredible game from him. Oh, Will the Thrill, man. You guys see that like short on Vikings app? Will the Thrill coming, baby? Will the Thrill is coming. It is so nice to have a competent kicker, one of the best kickers in college football, from what I'm told. Our punter keeps doing incredible as well. So, what more can you say about our Minnesota Vikings? So, and then lastly, I wanted to clear up a couple things. I want to clear up my position with the Vikings this year, because I feel like I gave the wrong impression on yesterday's live on Skoll's channel. Like, huge thanks to Keith and the gang for letting me on and give my thoughts after the game. And I apologize for coming across like I wasn't valuing this year or I was looking past it. That's why I end up with like 7 or 10 different drafts for my scripted videos. Ollie, sorry, my little man. He thinks he's 10 feet tall, man. He thinks he's as big as the Giants think, or as the Jets think they are, right? So, I'm sorry about that. No, but in all seriousness, no, like, that's why I do so much script writing, because sometimes it's hard for me to get my point across or the right idea without proofreading. So I apologize for that, and I do want to, because I feel like we have all the foundational pieces that we need in order to develop into a dynasty, right? To me, this year is the most important on that path, because to me, the experience gathered this year, I believe, is going to pay dividends exponentially. Just like the Patriots in 2001, that first Super Bowl began a chain of development that led that team and Tom Brady to becoming the dynasty and the GOAT, right? So I see the same future or potential with the Vikings, and that's why I desperately want the best case scenario for this year, because if we win that Super Bowl, not only do I want it for selfish reasons, because I'm deep down just as jaded as a lot of fans, and I really have to hold myself from letting it come out when I'm watching games. But when I look back and I step back and I look at the bigger picture, what I really want on top of that first Super Bowl win, so we can rub it in the Packers' face, is I want I want I want that same path that the Patriots opened up to open up for us, like they had going into the 2002 2003 season, right? Um, because after that, if we have that path open up, if we win that Super Bowl this year, which I'm really confident that we can do, this roster is that good. And even with our struggles, I still think at our worst, we can still win a Super Bowl, even with our worst performances. So I trust that Cam, Kwesi Adolfo Mensa, KOC, Brian Flores will keep this team, will keep, if that path opens up, will push us towards the right path, of becoming, of that dream that I want for the Vikings, right? What I really want is for the Vikings to win the Super Bowl this year, and then on top of that, to be a decade full of Vikings dominance with multiple Super Bowls, so we can truly right the wrongs of the past, because it's our time. We real Why not us? All the cliche things. Why not us? It's our time. It has never. We have never, in my opinion, in the time that I've in the 20 almost 20 years that I've been watching football, um, I don't think we've had as good a team or as good of potential or as good of a future that we have now. And that's why I really have such big hopes and dreams for Super Bowl this year, and then for like a dynasty in a decade of just Vikings dominance over the NFL. Um, yeah, so it's amazing that that's even a possibility for us, after so many heartbreaks. So I really wanted to clear that up. And again, I'm sorry if I've given that impression to people, that I don't care about this season, or that it's not important, just because I want us to learn as many valuable lessons throughout the entire season, because those lessons are going to be the experience and the footage that we draw upon, in these upcoming years when we are becoming a dynasty, right? So, and that's why I say, if we won that Super Bowl, that is the best experience that we could possibly get, on top of the transitioning with the confidence that our team, our coaching staff, our organization, and then Cam, everything. It might even make Brian Flores go, you know what, I may have something. I may have the ability to be part of a second dynasty, and he might decide to stay longer than a lot of people are giving him credit, right? So, um, yeah. Again, I apologize if that's the impression I gave. I just have so much passion for this team, and I'm really happy that we are where we are, and I only see really good things to come. I guess we can talk a little bit about the Vikings Lions game coming up, or if anybody's got any questions, feel free to drop in the chat. I'll try to address them. I hope I've done a good job of addressing, um, like, or breaking down, the second half, and what my train of thoughts and my perspective was, uh, on that second half, and why I'm extremely happy of what's happening, or the progress that I'm seeing with the team. And then we got Lions and Vikings coming up, right? So, man, that's going to be two incredibly passionate, driven teams with a lot of motivation, with incredible rosters. Um, I, just like the Vikings, I have the Lions with one of the best rosters in the league. They have really, really good coaching. I'm in awe in what they have created. I remember when Matt Patricia was hired, I had a little bit of fear, like, oh no, he's coming from the Patriots. Could he turn the Lions into something? And I got a little bit premature with it. But Dan Campbell and what he's doing right now, man, I see these Lions. I don't have any animosity towards them. I have nothing but respect. They're going to be a tough, tough team. I think that they're going to be the team that's finally going to make us, have to answer that question of what are we going to play like when we play from behind. They definitely have the ability to punch us in the mouth and start strong. They can put up points fast. They have a lot of talent on that roster that they can lean on. Um, and yeah, I just think that man, it's going to be a hard fought game. I haven't really had the time to sit down and kind of um, really visualize every quarter, every drive, how I anticipate it might go. So I'm not entirely sure, and I don't have a prediction or a score prediction just yet. All I know it's going to be, it's def. I feel like the one thing my intuition is telling me is that it's going to be the game in which Sam Darnold is going to have to prove how he plays from behind, right? And it's going to show what KOC has in store, has scripted, has planned for those situations. It's going to show how this defense is going to respond. I'm excited for all those things because it's happening early in the season, right? Early in this season, all these lessons and experiences that we're learning are only going to transition throughout the end of the season as well as into the postseason, right? So, as much as we've struggled over the last couple weeks at executing at a high level or being efficient, we have definitely not been efficient in the second half. I feel like the upward trend is going to be that the next time that we start with a big lead or we take control early like that, I think that we're going to start putting those things into practice, and we're going to see improvement from our Vikings in those areas, and we're going to see a more complete game in the second half. Probably in that stretch between like the Colts to like the Cardinals. Oh man, Cardinals are going to be a little bit tougher than expected maybe now, but holy moly. Either way, yeah, we're gonna see some of those situations arise again where we have to play with a while blowing someone out or with a big lead, and hopefully, just like we showed in this week's game, uh, a willingness to continue to try to be aggressive, even though it didn't pan out this time around. I feel like in the next couple games that will start to become the trend, and hopefully going into the playoffs or the last few games of the season, that is hopefully no longer a concern for most people. And again, it kind of just shows that regardless of what situation our Vikings are in, we're able to still win regardless, right? We've had a dominant win over the Giants. We've had a tough opponent in the Niners, and just won that war of attrition between them, right? Despite having a couple mistakes that kind of let them back in the game, we dismantled the Texans, right? And the lessons that we learned from them, and the struggles that we've had, all those experiences, I feel like are going to be crucial for when we go into the playoffs or we're in the Super Bowl and that exact same situation happens again, and we know how we've been there before. So now at least we have something to draw upon, and in real time the players can be like not as nervous and can remember, oh, last time I did this, I'm going to try this, and maybe good things will happen. Maybe that'll be the difference in which makes us to progress further in the playoffs and hopefully to win the Super Bowl. um yeah, and I guess that brings me to the end of uh, this podcast, this live, when it came to the week 5 breakdown for the Jets Viking and the NFL in general. Um, I don't see any questions. I've seen a ton of people. I'm so bad at asking for people to like and subscribe during this because I'm still so very, very new at this. Um, it's only like a few days before week 1 is where I really committed to starting doing this. So I really appreciate you guys stopping and liking if you did, and please subscribe. I'm hoping uh, over the season this will just start getting better. This overlay and this everything is just kind of temporary. I'm in the works of setting up a studio so that way I can actually do some live commentary. Tonight I'm going to try to do a play-by-play call of the Monday night game because I do want to start calling Vikings games on when during the weeks or every Sunday. Man, I can't speak. But yeah, I want to start casting the Vikings game. That way, I can kind of give you guys my thoughts in real time as the game is going and my reaction to the game. So I'm going to give that a try tonight, the way that I have everything set up now. And then going forward, I hope to have that studio set up for it to be a thing. And hopefully, throughout this entire JJ McCarthy era and Vikings era of dominance that I hope to be emerging. And Turbo Duran, what's up to you? Yeah, who do I got for Monday night? Chiefs. Chiefs. Yeah, it's a good way to finish up. We got the Chiefs and the New Orleans Saints. I see a veteran team that has an incredibly competent coaching staff, defensive coordinator that is on their own level, like Brian Flores is, and compared to the rest of the league, a quarterback that you can literally set your clock to. Like he's solid. They have crafty veterans that can come up with big plays, and they have experience to kind of help them overcome situations as well as capitalize over an inexperienced young team that the New Orleans Saints are coming in with. Although they have some veteran players, I'm not saying that they're a completely young team either, but they're coming in with Clint Kubiak as their first year coordinator there, which I'm incredibly impressed to see what he's been doing. But I think it's going to be a factor of I think it's going to be a lot closer than people will give credit, because that offense has been proven to be extremely dynamic. The last couple weeks, they've faced some good defensive talent that has kind of stifled their offense a little bit. So I expect them to come out a little bit strong here. I just think that the difference is going to be in the situational football, in which the Chiefs are going to be extremely experienced. Um, in winning in those situations compared to what New Orleans is. So I expect some errors in those situational football moments from the Saints. But I wouldn't put it past the Saints to just they're very dynamic, right? Their offense has been proven to be able to put up a lot of points. Rashid Shaheed, I think, is in the middle of a breakout season and could be a potential superstar going forward, like I mentioned in my live on Saturday. So I think it'll be closer, but I have to kind of like give the nod to the Chiefs, because I feel like if it comes down to one of these situational situations where late in the game they can use that crafty intelligence, they're going to steal a game. We've seen them do it a ton of times. They're really, really good at it. Good teams like that find ways to win in those late game situations where they can steal games, even when they're playing such maybe a better team because they are suffering. Rashid Rice's or yeah, Rice is out, right? So with the on IR with the injuries. So yeah, I'm gonna give the nod to the Chiefs in a close game, but like I said, I would not be surprised if these New Orleans Saints make a game out of it. Alvin Kamara, what year is it? This man has taken, like, I don't know if it's the scheme or the coaching philosophy or the passion that they've found for trying to play games for Clint Kubiak. I don't know if that what it is, but he has turned back the clock. He looks incredible. I've been in awe of Alvin Kamara and his ability to like take hit after hit and somehow continue to rumble forward. So he's going to be a massive factor. Derek Carr's having a great season. He's got a cannon of an arm. Nobody's going to deny that he can't throw the ball, right? So can they just put it all together, and can they avoid shooting themselves in the foot, making situational mistakes that a veteran team like the Chiefs aren't going to make necessarily? If they can do all those things, they're going to win the game, right? But like I said, if football math football math hasn't really been reliable this year, but if conventional football math and wisdom prevails, the Chiefs will kind of, cheese a win, steal a win through craftiness and through their experience. But yeah, I think that's what I got coming up for Monday night. And if any, before I let you go, are there any other questions? Anybody in the chat? Thank you very much for Q Cox, Lefty, Turbo Duran, everybody that stopped by. I really appreciate you guys for stopping by and being a part of this journey of me trying to become a Vikings personality or commentator. I try not to lean so much on the stats because there's so many better analysts, play by play, or than me. Like I draw a lot. The way that I analyze a lot of things, I have a I have a market research background, so I have a bachelor's in commerce essentially. So when it comes to marketing, I look at it in I gather my data through market research. So I look at all the data, and then I start looking at anecdotal data or anecdotal evidence and hearsay, and I just kind of put it all together because when you start to see the same thing come up in multiple areas, I've learned to know that it's not a coincidence. It's just most likely closer to reality or closer to the truth, right? So when you really dig down into things and you really do the research and you break it down like that, I feel like that's what's given me the ability to kind of come up with my analysis in the way that I do, which is I think is different than most channels and most football pundits, I guess you could say. So I hope you guys enjoy um, my take on things and my approach. And still try to bring a little bit of the stats and the data in there for us. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the scripted stuff. I hope you guys enjoy the prediction, my version of bold predictions, where it's the crystal ball readings. I hope you guys enjoyed my power ranking stuff like that because I definitely look at it in a different way. I have different um, units of measure when it comes to my power rankings. So I'm glad that you guys were here and thank you so much for joining me on this. And again, and until next time, Skol Vikings.